Welcome friends to another Singular tutorial. Today we are going to be going over the Singular Composer. It is a very cool application. It's where a lot of the magic of the Singular platform happens. You are architecting your own graphics package that has certain logic that affects other applications in the platform like Spark and Studio, and it's really cool. I mean, this is very unique to this platform, so I'm really excited to show it to you, okay? Again, my name is Sean, and I'd like to remind you all to use Chrome while you're using Singular. Because Singular is HTML, because it is web-based, Chrome works best, and I just want to keep that friendly reminder out there for all of you, okay? Now, for today's tutorial, I don't want to say you need to be an expert in any one thing. I think that if you just want to dive in and learn a graphics application, we're going to try and approach from a place that's entry level. So just pay attention. This is video. You can go back and forth as you wish. We can't because we're shooting it live. I'm doing graphics live with Singular while we're doing it because that's the nature of what we do here at Singular.live. So you just need that, and you need your portal open so that you can open a composition. Now, because we do things live and I'm not an octopus, I'm going to bring in my friend Mr. Steven.
I love it.
Heimbold into right here, buddy.
Shawnee, good to see you, man. Good to see you.
Sorry about this terrible camera angle. I can't get that webcam working really well, but I got it in anyway because, it's nice to have a two-shot.
Yes,
so I just
absolutely.
go for it.
And we do it live, like you said earlier.
That is how we roll, buddy.
Yes, and we are going to make some beeping, great-looking graphics.
That's what we're here to do.
That's what we do.
That's what we're going to do. So tell me, number one, what is Composer? While I show everyone your desktop, you can kind of take it away, okay?
Jump over to the desktop here, or to my desktop, where you're going to see the dashboard of Singular. So I'm logged into my account. You guys hopefully are logged in your account that are viewing this. And we're going to do some basic stuff. We're going to build 3 graphics. We're going to show you how to put some widgets into those graphics, and those widgets are going to be text and rectangle and an image. And without further ado, as they say, yes, the basics. We're going to keep it simple. I think this will be very helpful for those who have not a lot of experience in building graphics, as well as people who are experienced. I think we can cover a lot of ground here today. So, new. Under new, we go to composition. We're going to build our first composition. Comp 01, boom. Here it is. Just a little reminder, since your account probably doesn't have a lot of stuff in it, you can see here it showed up right away. But just if you did not have this selected to all, if it was set to say assets, which would have been imported assets into the composition, you might not see your comp. That can trip some people up in the beginning. Later down the road, when you have lots of compositions and things, this will be very handy.
Don't get tripped up.
Don't get tripped up, exactly. So we're here to help. We want to get you guys off the ground running. So here we go, Comp 1. I'm going to double click, and when this loads, you're going to see some of the usual suspects that you see in a graphics platform. You're going to see a stage over here to the left, basic geometrics that you're going to use to control the widgets that we bring into the stage. You've got your output window here, your HTML5 output window, and you've got your area for controlling the graphics down here on the right, and some parameters for global settings for the composition, as well as where you can save revision snapshots. So,
very nice.
Let's go up to here. The first thing you see when you open a new composition is this thing, default group. You can double click and name this thing. I'm going to name it parent. You can name it anything you want, but basically this is a group. It's used primarily for organizing your scene tree, this business of having a group. But what you want to do when you add graphics into Singular is you want to do everything, or put all the graphics in their own dedicated sub-composition. So we are in a composition right now, and sub-compositions are going to be where all your graphics live within the main composition. So how do we do that? Under Add, you go down to New Sub-Composition. I'm going to name this first sub-composition, which is going to be where I build my graphics. I'm going to call this one let's call this lower third 1. Okay, so now in this sub-composition, I'm going to use this little arrow. I'm going to go down into the sub-composition. And if you notice very subtly up here in the upper left-hand corner, you can show you where I am in the whole composition. And at this point, it's a good idea to show you the button right below it, the Composition Navigator. And you can see I can also go back and forth between the parent and the child in this case, or sub-composition, right here. I can go back and forth between them. Now I'm down into the lower third composition. This dialog box is very handy. You can move it around the screen. it's going to come into play with a couple other features that it has. You can bring it on and off with a Control F. Very handy. That command, if you forget it, if you roll over this button in the upper left, you'll see Control F. So a few things you have to learn that are unique to Singular. Obviously, a scene tree is not unique to Singular. There's a lot of animation platforms that have it, but these little things like Control F, the Composition Navigator, are very powerful and very, very helpful. So,
Tooltips are on.
yeah, I think so. And just those little shortcut keys can really save you a lot of time. So again, we're down here in the lower third, and I'm going to name the group of the parent of this one. I'm just going to call it L3. You don't have to rename it. I just maybe out of habit do it. So now it's time to add some widgets to this composition or to this subcomposition. Up here we got 5 of the most commonly used ones. You've got text, you got a circle, you've got a rectangle, you got an image, and you got video. These are sort of the most common ones that you're going to use. So if I add a rectangle, for example, here, as soon as I do this, you can see you see full screen rectangle comes up, and you can see the attributes for the rectangle just pop up on a tab right here, and you can scale it, move it down. I would recommend for the rectangle widget that you go to the basic transformations of this widget here and do the scaling properties here as opposed to in the rectangle. It's one of those things where you can sort of be competing on where the size of the rectangle is handled. So I would recommend you do it here in the transformations. Exactly.
It's really important. Like any widget that you're going to get, the simple widgets, that easel panel is where all of your transformational attributes are for that widget.
Absolutely.
Pretty straightforward.
So on this one, I'm simply going to scale it down, and then I'm going to unlock the X, Y size parameters, and I'm going to take it down to something a little thinner and narrow, and I'm going to drop it down to the bottom of the screen. I'm also going to go back to the rectangle attributes, and I'm going to change the color of it. So you can set linear and radial and what have you here, but let's just keep it as a solid, and let's just make it a bit darker here. There's some presets down here at the bottom from the color picker. Make it dark gray. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a text widget on top of it. Now I'm going to add it right here. And again, these top 5 most commonly used widgets, or the ones that we feel are most commonly used, you can also get to those through this add button, add widget. So if I do it this way, just briefly take you on a slight detour, if I start typing in text, it'll show you the text widget. Now there are a lot of widgets in the
It's like kind of a library there.
There's
It'll be
quite
growing.
a few. It keeps growing, and it is incredibly powerful, this architecture of how we can build widgets and make some really amazing custom functionality.
Yep.
But in any event, we'll come out of this dialog box, and we added the text widget from the commonly used toolbar up here at the top. So we've got text. We can copy this text and paste it a few times. And what I'm going to do is I'll turn on bounding box, and I can freely move this object around. I can bring it on top of the rectangle. As you can see, I can change the order within the tree, and it's going to go behind it. But in this case, what we'll do is we'll set it back to it's 0 in the tree. I can do, in basic transformations, I can do hit R on the keyboard. That'll set to 0. I can obviously also type 0. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale this down to about 8, and then I'm going to unbind the XY, and we'll make this 39. Now you can see the text is justified to the left, properties for text here, and we'll make it center justified. And what I'm going to do now is drop it down so it lands right on top of the bar. Now, while we're here, let's take a look at the animations of these objects. So I'm going to jump over to the animation timeline, and you can see both the text and the rectangle have this fade bar here. And by default, any widget that you bring into the scene tree is going to have a fade on it. And if I start scrubbing the timeline back and forth, both objects fade in and out. I think for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to remove these fades. So I'm going to click on that small icon right here to the left. I'm just going to take it to none, and same with the rectangle. And the reason I'm doing this, I'm going to do it, group them, basically do it at the group level, right at the top, at the parent level, I should say. And we will do a translate. And you can see now I'm translating the graphic in, and then the reverse animation will take it out. So I'll turn off bounding box for a second. I think that the bounding box in this case may be a little distracting. It comes in, comes out. I'll go back to this for a second. I have it set over 1 second. Let's maybe make it 0.75 and set the velocity curve here. It's a nice preset velocity curves. You can play around with these. You can play around with these things quite a bit. There's some nice preset velocities. So let's set it to
Because
a power.
it's always fun to play with velocity curves.
Exactly.
Let's
Yeah,
face it.
exactly. And you know what that gives you, like, as you know, like in a basic, animation tool, you get a nice, ease in and ease out, if
Yeah.
you will. So the graphics we've shown you the first of 3 ways how to animate widgets within Singular. So the other one, as long as there's 3 basic ways to do the animation controls within Singular. The second way is update. And since we have this piece of text right here, it's a good jumping off point to show you the update animation. So I've selected the text widget. I'm going to go over here to the update button. I'm going to hit it active. And what that's going to do is if I go back over to text here and if I type in the word test, and then I copy it and paste it. Every time I paste new text in there, as you can see, one after the other, it does that update animation automatically. Let's go over to update animation for a second. Fade. It's set to fade on the in and the out. I'm not going to go too deep into these, but you can imagine you can set translations. You can do, for example, I'll just do one quickly here. We'll do an up and a down animation on translation. If we go back to the text and then paste this, you can see what happens.
Ooh.
Pretty cool, right?
Absolutely. And let's say it's set on fade by default because there's no shame in the fade.
Exactly. Up. Actually, let's do up.
It's
down.
elegant and nice, but hey, you've got a lot of choices here in order to do the behavioral. This is the update animation, I'm sorry. And the reason why I like the update animation is because it reminds us that Singular.live is a platform for real-time graphics.
Absolutely. And
When you need to update them real-time while you're live, while you're streaming, the animation is dynamic and it makes things just elegant and smooth and move fluidly.
It makes it really easy. And this, I have to say, just on a side note, this business of update animations is you're going to continue to see, I hope, but see the power of these update animations and how amazing this is, this ability to push some text or image links or what have you into your composition and have them do these animations without having you to do any work whatsoever.
Extremely powerful aspect of the platform here.
Yeah. So let's go back to let's go back to the text attribute, because there's one more piece we need to do to this piece of text, which is to show you two more pieces. One is I've shown you the 2 ways to do animations in Singular. I showed you the animation timeline, and then I showed you the update animation. But the third one is behavior. And really quick while I'm here, I'm just going to go over to behavior and add an opacity behavior. And what does that mean? That means that when I add this, it's going to do this sort of pulsing of the opacity over this duration. If I speed that up a bit, it's going to almost look like a faster pulse. I can add multiples. I can do like an X position, and it's going to go back and forth across the screen.
Yes.
Very
Like
handy if you're doing like a little
holds.
lens flare or something that's sort of constant animations, and you just want to set it and forget it. It's really, really handy. I will turn those off for now because I think we'll get a bit dizzy and if we keep
Right.
those on. But
We're going to do a tutorial just on those type of animations because you
Absolutely.
can get very dynamic with behavioral animations and holds. So
yeah, I just thought it would be nice to show you the three
Yep.
pieces to the animation capabilities of the Singular platform, which is animation, update, and behavior. So
it's perfect, Captain. We're
let's
here.
go back over to text. So in text, the next piece we need to do is think one step down the road and say, when we're done with this graphic, we're going to need to control this graphic from an application. And we're going to get into that in a minute. But to do that, we're going to need to isolate this graphic or define this graphic in this composition as something that we want to control. So down in the lower right-hand corner of the composition, the control node, we need to connect a control node to this text field. So there's a number of control nodes we can use here. I should say control fields.
Yeah,
We wanna-
you're exposing the control, yeah.
Exactly. So we're going to go to select text, and let's just call this, we can name it anything we want. I'm going to call it text 1. And it pops up here with default text. I can type in, hello, Sean, and nothing really happens other than you see some text here. What I need to do is connect this control node, which is going to be the fill-in form that you see in your control application. And then again, another step down the road. I need to connect it to this text that's in the scene tree. So to do that, I simply need to go to text with the lines underneath it here and select control nodes. We only have one at this time, which is text 1, the one I defined, and you're going to see it's going to do the update animation. It's going to take this text, anything that goes here, into the text field, and this is no longer editable because it's bound to this control field.
Yes. And this is one of the reasons why I call Composer an architect type application.
Absolutely.
Because you are actually affecting the way you are building another application while you're building Composer. And
Yes.
it's so cool when you see it when we put the dots together later on and show them what this looks like in Studio and Spark.
It saves a lot of time. You know, you're basically isolating out the variables, the things within
The things in the
graphic.
template you want someone else to be able to edit and control.
Exactly. So with that, let's go back over to that composition navigator with Control F, which again was up here in case you forgot that
Yes, sir.
key. And let's assign this lower third graphic to what we call a logic layer. So I'm going to call this one lower. And this is going to make sense here in a minute. What I'm doing is I'm going to make another lower third graphic. I'm going to duplicate this graphic, change a few things of the style of the graphic, and you're going to see, because they're both assigned to the same logic layer, that when we animate one in, the other one will automatically come out, because there's logic there that binds them, a relationship between those two graphics. So I'm going to come up to the parent, upper left-hand corner. I can click it here, or again, Composition Navigator. Here I am. I'm going to right-click on this graphic, duplicate it, and I'm going to move our navigator over for a minute. I'm going to call this one 2. I'm going to change the order in the tree. So the second one is below the first one. Again, they're identical. So what we need to do now is dive down into this lower third, number 2. Let's change the rectangle. We'll make it perhaps sort of a red color. And we'll go to the transformation. We'll make it a bit wider and
Yeah,
a
you're
bit
gonna
taller. So we can kind of
See
it.
the difference between the two on the same layer.
Exactly. Maybe we'll even add a stroke around that
Oh,
graphic.
now you're getting fancy.
Exactly. We'll maybe just make a little stroke here because we're here. And one more thing we'll do is on the animation timeline, instead of a translation from the left, let's do it from the right. So now let's go back to the navigator. This is where it gets kind of cool, because if I take this one out, now when I bring them in and out, it's almost as if one pushes the other one out. Now again, we can play with those velocity curves so you don't have that overlap. But I think what I'm doing here is showing you the ability, the power of this layer logic business. It's very, very handy.
Defining the layer, which we usually do by region of space on the screen. That's how we've always done that in this business, is we've named our layers by regions of space. So this is a lower third layer. It makes sense to call it a lower.
Absolutely.
And the logic does not allow you to have two graphics from the same layer on air at the same time.
Absolutely. So that velocity curve, if we set it to linear, for example, on both of these two graphics, I'm going to jump between the two of them, set them to linear, and now I go back and forth. You can see now you don't have that
Right,
business
that-
that they're over, but it's a little
Yeah.
clunky, right?
That's stuff that you guys will be able to play with and get creative with.
Exactly. So we don't need to go too deep into that. I'll leave it at linear for right now
That's
so you
cool.
don't see that overlap. We'll build one more graphic. We'll come back up to the parent level where we see both the lower third 1 and 2, and we will add a new sub-composition. And we'll put this one up at the top. Let's call this upper left bug. Okay? So I'm going to come into that graphic, and I'm going to add a rectangle. Again, you can see the default fade animation comes in. I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to put it up at the parent level here. And, you know, I turn that off because, you know, down the road you can get to some really complicated animations where you have multiple objects within your sub-composition, and you have lots of animations. I'm just doing everything at the parent level to really stay focused on the task at hand, which is to make a handful of graphics and show you some of the basic capabilities of the platform. So again, we'll do a translate here. We'll set the duration down just a little bit, and you can see this one is going to come into the left. The whole rectangle comes in. So now what we're going to do is just scale that rectangle down. Again, I like to pin it up here in an anchor point here, and we'll knock it down to 20, and then we will unlock it here, and boom, and maybe we'll make it just a touch darker like we did the other graphics, just so you can see the text on top of it, maybe this shade. There you go. Again, now we need the text, so I come up here, drop the text in on top. Let's put bounding box in here. I'm going to set it to center justified, and then I'm going to move it down right. I'm sorry, let's put it here. The anchor point up into the corner. This makes it kind of easy to scale this guy down, right? And then we're just going to drop it down in place.
Very nice.
Pretty cool, right?
Sure, I got a bug on air right now. It's one of, I mean, this is one
There
of
you
the
go.
classic graphic, and it really helps to tell the story.
Yep, just like I did with the previous, the lower third graphics, I put the update animation. I'll do the same thing here. This is going to be a fade. I'll leave it at the default settings here. And the last piece, Command F, again, that handy little composition navigator, I'm going to assign the lower bug to a layer logic. and we'll call this upper left.
Might as well. It's a good region of space on the screen.
And we just have one upper left for today. I think that'll be enough graphics today to show you, to now take you into the control aspect of this. But there's one piece I forgot, which is I have to make a control node for that upper left graphic. So,
And you also could show us
turn off
adding
bounding
one
box.
image, I think. Do we need to do an
that's
image
a
here?
good point. Yes.
Because that
we
would be
meant-
the most fundamental elements.
Absolutely.
Text, image, and shape.
So let's add that control node to the bug here real quick. So we added it here.
Because we want people to be able to edit the text on this
Exactly. So we
template.
connect it. You'll see it'll pop in with default text. If I put the word live, you can see it's going to do the update animation because I set that here. So as Sean said, we said in the beginning we were going to show you 3 widgets. One was text, rectangle. The one we have not shown you yet is image. So let's go to the Composition Navigator. Again, from here, we can also take each graphic in and out. I'm going to take the bug and the first lower third out. We'll bring in the second one. I'll go dive down into its subcomposition. And now I'm going to add the image widget, which is one of the commonly used ones here at the top. So it's nice, located here with the menu bar. I'm going to click it, and nothing happens because if we go to its attributes, there's no link, no web link to this graphic.
Nada.
So what I've done here is I have gone over to another browser. I have the Austrian flag because
Why
our
not?
lead developer is
Sure.
an Austrian guy. He's a pretty smart guy. We thought we'd put his flag in here.
I like them.
So we're going to copy the image address from this browser, and we're going to pop it right here. You can see it shows up big. What we're going to do is scale this guy down. Maybe let's try
Hello, my
10.
name is Sean.
Maybe a touch bigger. Let's go 12. And now I'm going to move it over, and we know to lay it right on top of that graphic is at 40. And there you go.
Yep.
You've got the little flag there. Now, just like we did the text, the update animation will also work with text. So I'm going to just leave it at the default, which is fade. And so the last piece of the puzzle is a control node for the image. We did one with text. So we go down here to the lower right-hand corner. We select, in this case, image. We'll just call this one image 1. Again, you can name it anything you want. And in here, in fact, actually in the text one, you can see where you can name the default values for the text. So for image 1, I need to connect this to the actual widget in the scene tree. Go to image, control node, image 1. And again, it went to this URL because that is the default. I'm going to jump back over to our Austrian flag, copy this,
Grab it.
and I'm going to paste it right here. And there you see it did the fade.
Magnificent.
Okay, so now what I will do is jump back over to the dashboard. I guess it's now time to
Do me a favor, since I'm an operator, could you go
Yes.
back and label that lower third with image now so that
Yes.
I know that that one has an image in it?
Good idea. I'll do that with the Comp Navigator. Again, Control F, it brings it up here. I'm going to go back here to the parent of all of the sub compositions, and the one that has the image, like Sean said, is lower third 2. I'm going to double click it, and instead of lower third 2, we'll call this lower third with image. Perfect.
Great.
Okay,
Thanks.
so now the next step is to jump over to the dashboard, this tab here. We need some control, so a new control application. We have 2 to choose from right here, as you can see right now. I'm sure this will grow. There'll be many more. We're going to start with Studio. And I'm going to just call this comp1_studio. And there it is. It shows up. I'm going to double click on it. Studio has a nice new feature here where it prompts you with the please select a composition dialog box. So here it is, comp 1, that's the comp we just built. It's reading the scene tree right now. As you can see, Hello Sean graphics showed up immediately. And you
Hello,
might
world.
say, why is that? Well,
It shouldn't be. Yeah, if I'm an operator and I see that thing on air because your output is on your right-hand side, that means that that would be live on air. So yeah, it shouldn't be.
It's a
What's the
little odd.
troubleshooting here?
so this is a common, I call it a mistake. I mean, what you do is just jump back over to the composition here in the other browser. And we've got the Composition Navigator up here. I'm just going to take all the graphics out. There we go, here. And you can see, and I'll go right back over to the studio and refresh this. So why that graphic showed up is the state of the composition, meaning if a graphic is left in, when you import it into Studio, your control application, it's going to display exactly what's in the composition, the main composition. So all we had to do is go over there, take everything out, refresh the composition, we're ready to go. Now, in Studio, it's time to add some graphics into this area, which is our rundown list. This plus button right here, add a new page. Here's the lower third with image. And as Sean knows, this is why it's very important how you name your graphics, because exactly what you name them in the composition is how they show up here. We'll also add the lower third, and we might as well add the upper left bug. You can also see when I take them, when I select them, they go into the left-hand side, which is the preview. So I can go down back and forth. And you can also see down here, there's the exact same dialog boxes, or I should say fill-in forms down here in the lower right-hand corner that you saw when you were building the composition.
When you assign those control nodes.
Exactly. These are the control nodes that you created, and they're just visible here in the application. So again, this is all in preview. If I want to take them to program, I simply click the arrow, and you'll see they will go into program.
And there you go. Now you had two different templates on the same lower third layer, which kick each other off in the logic of the layer because it won't allow them to be on air at the same time.
Absolutely.
And you've got a second graphic on air because it's in a separate layer. It allows it to be live on air. That is why we separate them into regions of space. That's fundamental building of a graphics package right there.
And again, just real quick, when we see the fill-in forms down here, if I go back up, I also have a Norwegian flag that I went and found online. So if I go copy the image address of this, come right back over to, there we go, to Studio. And if I duplicate this graphic, let's call this one Austria. Oops, excuse me, Austria. And then I'm going to right-click and duplicate this graphic, and we'll call this one Norway. And we're going to paste the Norway path here. Now when I take this graphic, you will see that cross dissolve back and forth between these two graphics.
And there is the power of using the Singular platform, friends. You're just seeing the update animation since we're using the same duplicate template. We've changed one element within that template. Why take it off air? Keep it on and just update the change.
Absolutely, and I was just changing the image path, but not the text. So if I change that to say "Hello, Stu," we go back and forth. You'll see it's going to change. There it is. Now it triggers the update animation, which was a translate.
I get it.
Pretty straightforward.
Reading is fundamental.
I think we covered everything for this first.
You have. You could show everyone exactly what it looks like in Spark when you open it.
Absolutely.
It's fundamentally the same thing. You're going to see the same layer names, same subcomp names, your template names, and the functionality is roughly the same. But
yeah, you're right. I think we covered everything in Studio, sort of the relationship between getting graphics out of the composition editor and into Studio. And in Spark, a slightly easier, a more simplified control application. A lot of the things are the same. You'll see here. I'm going to call this one comp1_Spark. So we know I'm going to open it up. And what I mean, you're going to see the similarities here. You're going to see preview and program left and right. And the first thing you're going to need to do, upper left-hand corner, please select a composition.
Yep.
We're going to select comp1, comp01. That's the one we created.
Yep.
And this one's laid out a little bit differently. You've got add new graphic layers. Well, if I hit the plus button.
There's your graphic layers.
Absolutely.
Yep.
We only have two. We have our lowers. I click that. I click lower, and then I have two to choose from with image and one without. And then down here, let's add the bug, the upper left bug, and we'll put that here. And if I simply roll over these graphics, you'll see they'll come in and out. Same with the bug, into preview. If I click on them, it will bring up the edit dialog boxes where you see your
control nodes.
Exactly, the same ones that you saw in Studio, only they come up in a floating dialog box here.
Mm-hmm.
And one last piece, we are in edit mode. If you toggle over to on-air mode, now when you click on the buttons, they're going to go directly to program. And this is basically in edit mode, you're going to be in a mode where you edit all your text, you check everything, and then when you're done and you've got everything in a good spot, then you can go on air. Again, you could always right-click these buttons and still get to the edit dialog boxes here. But I think a deep dive into Studio and Spark is for another demo. So I think for now, I think we've covered everything. I'm pretty sure.
I think so. Let's see if I can get the right camera to That's a
Cool.
different camera. Looks it's a little two-shot right
Cool.
there. I'm trying to, keep it real. Little studio atmosphere.
It's good.
My friend, thank you so much for
Yeah,
doing that. I
that
really
was fun.
appreciate it. I think that really does get the fundamentals of building a graphics package. I think that people can run with that a little
We've
bit.
got plenty more to do after this, so I look forward to it.
I like it. I like it. All right. Well, I hope that you got what you were looking for in that tutorial. And I would say that you can go on over to the Knowledge Center in order to get more tutorials and continue to get more knowledge about Singular. And always do it live.